What if the man who built humanity's last hope never knew what he was actually building? What if the silos that have kept survivors alive for centuries were designed by someone who thought he was creating something else entirely? Buried in the very first episode of Silo Season 3 is a quiet, easy-to-miss conversation that changes everything we thought we knew about who built the silos and why. It's not shouted from the rooftops. It's not a dramatic reveal with swelling music. It's a compliment, a throwaway line of praise from a senator to a congressman. And if you caught it, you now know something most viewers completely missed. Today, we're digging into one of the most important threads Silo Season 3 has planted so far. The possibility that Congressman Daniel Keene, the man we've watched fall in love, chase political ambition, and slowly get pulled into a conspiracy involving his own sister, might be the literal architect of the silo system itself. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally the engineer whose invention made building an underground civilization possible without anyone on the surface noticing. This isn't just a fun Easter egg, it might be the key to understanding the entire origin of the world. Juliette Nichols has spent 3 seasons trying to survive. Let's rewind for a second. When we last saw Daniel at the end of Season 2, he was a congressman on what looked like a date with an investigative journalist named Helen. Except it wasn't really a date. Helen was digging for information about a radiological attack, a dirty bomb, allegedly launched by Iran against the United States. That scene felt like a small, almost intimate character moment. In hindsight, it was the opening crack in a door that leads straight down to the silos themselves. Season 3 takes us back even further into that timeline, and it's here that the show does something clever. It doesn't announce Daniel's importance. It slips it into a conversation you could easily scroll past if you're not paying attention. Daniel meets with Senator Thurman, and she brings up his background, not as a politician, but as an engineer. She specifically recalls his time with the Army Corps of Engineers and a project he worked on in New Orleans, where he helped design a specialized drill. A drill capable of boring deep underground without disturbing the soil or the surface above it. Sit with that for a second. A drill that can dig without leaving a trace. Why would something like that matter to a government official overseeing what appears to be a defense or infrastructure project? Because that's exactly the kind of technology you'd need if you wanted to build something enormous underground while keeping the entire operation invisible to the public. And Thurman doesn't stop there. She casually mentions that it was Daniel's idea to replace levees with tunnels. The same word that has haunted Silo 18 since Season 2 when Juliette discovered mysterious forbidden passageways that no one, not even longtime residents, is allowed to access. We already know how seriously the silo's ruling system protects those tunnels. The algorithm itself warns Lucas that revealing their existence will trigger something called the safeguard procedure. That's not a small detail. That's an automated system built specifically to protect a secret so dangerous it needed its own protocol. So here's the question we're sitting with. If Daniel's the man who conceived of replacing levees with tunnel systems, is it possible he unknowingly designed the very infrastructure that generations later would be used to trap, control, and monitor an entire underground society? There's more physical evidence buried in the show's present-day timeline, too. Remember those massive drill-like structures Juliette found in the lower levels of Silo 18, back when George Wilkins first took her down there? At the time, they just looked like industrial leftovers, strange, oversized machines with no clear purpose. But now, knowing what we know about Daniel's invention, those drills take on a completely different meaning. What if those aren't just machinery? What if they're literally Daniel's design, sitting untouched for centuries, a physical fingerprint of the man who helped make the silos possible in the first place? Now here's where the story gets even more layered, because Apple Silo isn't inventing this idea out of nowhere. It's rooted in Hugh Howey's original book trilogy, where Daniel's counterpart is a character named Daniel Keene. In the books, Donald is a young, ambitious, newly elected congressman with a background in architecture, recruited by Senator Thurman to design a massive underground structure. And just like the show's Daniel, Donald has no idea what he's really building. He believes the bunkers are meant as temporary emergency shelters, something practical, something humane. But that belief becomes the tragedy at the center of his character. Because the very things Donald designs with good intentions, the strict verticality, the single central stairwell, the isolated levels, later become the exact tools future silo authorities use to control the population, crush rebellion, and choke off the flow of information between levels. Donald didn't build a prison. He built a structure that could be turned into one, and he never knew it until it was too late. This raises a haunting question for the show's version of the story. Is Daniel Keene walking the same unknowing path? Is he, right now in these flashback episodes, contributing pieces to a system he believes serves one purpose, while the people around him, Thurman, the government, maybe even forces we haven't met yet, already know its true, horrifying end goal? It's worth noting that Apple's adaptation hasn't followed Donald's book arc beat for beat. The show has skipped or altered several parts of his backstory, which means we can't assume Daniel's journey will unfold exactly like his literary counterparts. But the fact that the writers chose to include this specific detail, the drill, the tunnels, Thurman's praise, tells us this connection is deliberate. This isn't filler dialogue. It's a breadcrumb. And breadcrumbs matter enormously in a show like this, especially now that Season 3 has fundamentally shifted its focus. According to Rebecca Ferguson, who plays Juliette, this season isn't just about uncovering what the silo is anymore. It's about understanding why it was ever built. The story is deliberately widening its lens, pulling us into the before times, a world that looks unsettlingly like our own, except underground structures are quietly being built and filled for reasons no one questions yet. Ferguson has teased that audiences are going to learn an enormous amount of history this season, and if that's true, Daniel's engineering background isn't a minor detail. It might be one of the central threads explaining how humanity's entire post-apocalyptic system came into existence. Meanwhile, the present-day story is proving just how dangerous buried truths can be. Juliette Nichols wakes up in Season 3 with no memory of the discoveries that defined Season 2. And we quickly learn that isn't trauma. It's deliberate suppression. The pills she's been taking, framed as vitamins, are actually memory-suppressing drugs, administered under Camille's watch and directed by the mysterious ruling algorithm itself. When the algorithm notices Juliette's memories beginning to resurface, it doesn't hesitate. It orders her dosage increased. And that parallel is impossible to ignore once you connect it to the flashback timeline. Daniel's sister Charlotte survives a catastrophic incident during a military operation and wakes up with a severe brain injury, unable to remember Daniel or anything about what happened to her. Two women, centuries apart, both robbed of their memories by forces working against their own interests. Is that a coincidence, or is memory manipulation something baked into the very foundation of this world? Something that started, quite literally, with the same people who built the silos in the first place. Which brings us back to Daniel. If he really did design the drill technology and the tunnel systems that would one day become tools of control, then his story isn't just historical background. It's the origin point of the exact machinery of secrecy and suppression that Juliette is fighting against right now, centuries later, without even knowing his name. Oh, here's what I want to know. Do you think Daniel Keene is a willing architect of this system, or another tragic figure like his book counterpart, unknowingly building the very cage his descendants will be trapped inside? Drop your theory in the comments. At its core, this might be the most unsettling idea Silo has offered us yet, that the person who literally engineered the physical foundation of the silos may have believed, right up until the end, that he was saving people rather than sealing their fate. If that's true, then the horror of this story was never really about a single villain pulling the strings. It's about good intentions, buried underground, slowly hardening into the very tools of oppression they were meant to prevent. And if Daniel's drill really is sitting in the depths of Silo 18 to this day, then Juliette has been standing next to the answer to her entire world's origin story this whole time. She just didn't know it yet. If this breakdown helped you connect the dots, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe for more Silo theories and episode breakdowns, and share this with a fellow fan who's still trying to figure out who really built the silos.